Persona 3, 4, and 5 have been an incredible win streak for Atlus. Each Persona game is selling more and more, and garnering more praise as well, with Persona 5 Royal sitting at a Metascore of 95. It would have been truly easy for these developers to just make more Persona. After all, they are really good at it. However, Atlus has decided that they want to create their third pillar, another franchise that can stand next to SMT and Persona, and that game is Metaphor ReFantazio, a game that is often described as Persona in a fantasy setting. It also features a fully fleshed out Final Fantasy-esque job system, and this game called Archetypes. And though this game has a lot in common with Persona, including a calendar system, there's also quite a few things that separate it as well. And today we really learn about how this game truly differs from Persona. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, look at that. We are right on the border of 99k. Our goal is to hit 100k before the end of the year. So please go ahead and push our community over the edge. One thing about the Persona games and the calendar system in general is that you have a lot of different options in front of you on what you want to do next. There is always choice around when you want to visit the dungeon, which social links you want to tackle next, and which stats you want to boost. However, as long as you optimize your schedule and aren't just wasting days, there's a very good chance you'll be able to see and do all of it. However, a recent quote from an interview implies that you may not be able to do quite the same with Metaphor, which is going to tremendously deepen the weight of each one of your decisions. An interview done with GameSpot.com has the following to say. According to Hashino, dungeons will play a major role in Metaphor ReFantazio, but don't expect to see all of them in one playthrough. Compared to more linear timelines found in Persona, Metaphor offers a bit more freedom at the cost of having to make hard choices, and not only how you spend your time, but where. Imagine if you go on vacation, Hashino explained. You go to a city and you have 10 places listed on your travel log. Some of these might take 2 days to enjoy, whereas others might take a half day. Some might require a guide or more preparations, others might be a bit more safe, but you can't do it all. In this game, you travel a lot, and when you get to your destinations, you have the choice of multiple dungeons you can do. And all of these dungeons have different difficulty levels as well, so it's kinda up to you on how you choose to spend your time. And this way, there's a lot more freedom. So indeed, compared to Persona games, you're going to have a lot more choice. And that choice is also going to matter tremendously more. It seems as though if you're looking to hit up every single dungeon on your first playthrough of Metaphor, then that may not be a possibility given what this article says. Now, I know some people in the comments will be quite mad about this one, as I know there are people who love to see and do everything on a game's single playthrough, 100%ing it all in one go around. However, to me, this makes me feel like my actions have real weighted consequences. The decisions that I make will be ones that I can't get back. Because of that, the actual decision making in the game will be a lot more intense, and for me, that's usually something I find more immersive, debating to myself which option is the most optimal, and then also having to adapt if I realize that I messed up. Naturally, I also understand some people don't like this because they feel a need to look up a guide for every single choice, as they don't want to choose something that is suboptimal. A lot of people also get choice paralysis whenever it comes to making these decisions, so I will be incredibly curious to see how people respond to this. But for me, in a game about elections where choices are supposed to be incredibly crucial, I think it sounds like an incredibly fitting system. Now, one of the most fascinating things about Metaphor is that the human world is a sort of alternate universe in this game. It's also worth noting that these monster enemies in the game are also known as humans. This is something incredibly intriguing, and I think the game is going to have something really profound here to say. After all, this is the type of commentary that JRPGs do best. When GameSpot asked Hashino this, he had something profoundly interesting to say. Quote, "One of the things I thought in the beginning was that we wanted to define this game with the idea of fear and anxiety anxiety. The idea that when you are growing as a human being, you're faced with these fears and anxieties and they help you grow. And basically, if you're negative or positive about the things that happen, if your approach changes, it will either take your life in a positive or negative direction. Fear is something that was really helpful for humans. When you left your territory, something could kill you and you'd be in danger, right? But not so much in the modern age. We don't really need that kind of fear. We don't have the threat of being eaten by something. In the past, we were afraid of physical things. Now in the modern world, we have more fear about how to face our emotions. The article then says Hashino went on to imply that in high fantasy, strife-filled world of metaphor ReFantazio, human fears would be as abstract to these characters as palpable fears we observe now are to many of us. It's an interesting concept that seemingly asks us to take a deeper look at our fears and anxiety and question how they serve us, as well as how we frame our life can alter our perception of it. Hashino continuing, when players play this game, I want them to think about what it takes to become a hero and what it would take within them. I hope playing this game will inspire them to change their own lives. So thematically, this is something that I really like. It's the exact type of thing that you want a JRPG to explore, and I think Metaphor's setting, as well as where its plot twist can potentially be going, are incredibly intriguing and could potentially explore these themes in a very profound way. Now there is one other major difference that Metaphor has when compared to Persona. That is of course romance, or the lack thereof. In Persona you have a number of romance options, however in Metaphor that is not going to be the case. And in an interview with Push Square, Hashino explained why they aren't going to be having a romance system in Metaphor, with him saying, quote, "For us, the reason we included romance in previous games is that a lot of our games are based around the idea of teenagers living their lives. What teenager doesn't want to have romance in their life? It's part of the realism of the setting. We know people really like this system and it's really popular, but for this game specifically, it's not about teenagers. It's about a person trying to become the ruler of the land. They are more focused on the relationships between a ruler and the people who support them." This is where I have to disagree a bit with what Hashino is saying here. I actually think that romance is more part of your life when you aren't a teenager, as opposed to the brief time when you are. And given by what I've witnessed in my own life experiences, it really has not stopped any political leaders from seeking it out either, even when they are married. And so I don't think it would have been that jarring to have, though I do respect the decision to not have it in this game. Just as there are people who love the dating sim aspects of Persona, there are also people who hate it. And for those who aren't into that system, this is going to be their time to shine. This is something that I do think could have been interesting if it was included in this game. However, ultimately, I don't mind it not being there. While this game shares a lot of similarities to Persona, it's ultimately not Persona. It's something brand new, and a game that I think could ultimately be a very strong Game of the Year contender. In fact, currently, this is the only game that I think could actually give Final Fantasy VII Rebirth a run for its money. It's hard to imagine any other game coming close in the Metascore, and the people working on this game have a history of producing top-notch quality RPGs. This is a game made by many of Atlus's strongest devs, and it is my most anticipated game for the second half of this year. But these are just my thoughts on Metaphor. I want to hear yours in the comments below. What do you think about maybe not being able to see all the dungeons in one playthrough, and the lack of a romance system? And I'll see you all in the next video. Later, guys.